Somebody call Roland.
I'm Jacob.
I am Jacob, and I am a domestic violence survivor.
Jacob, what's your experience with abuse?
Uh, I discovered in my 40s in therapy that it went back to my childhood as early as since time began. I had a very lovable, funny, charismatic, generous dad who was also violent sometimes. And so we lived in a house where, I think it was described as a bomb that could go off at any time, whether you say the right thing or the wrong thing. So it was capricious like that.
How did it affect you in your early adult life?
Well, uh, I guess in my 20s and 30s, the way I'd sum it up is I was a very angry young man. And that anger came out sideways. I think that's called passive aggressive. I hadn't learned how to be honest with myself. I didn't know really what was wrong with me. I had a dangerously low self-esteem, a danger to myself and to people around me. Later, I found out my core belief is I didn't think I should be alive because of the beatings, the physical beatings I got as a kid.
What did you do to seek out help? Or when did you realize you needed help?
Um, in my early 40s, so I'm 61 now, which blows my mind. In my early 40s, I had developed these really serious panic attacks where in the middle of the day I would collapse from exhaustion. I think that's too much adrenaline in the body, and then you become exhausted. And I also, I would call 911 in the middle of the day. I think I crashed my car once or twice because I was hyperventilating on Lakeshore Drive once, and then by my house once in Lakeview. And I would call 911, and the emergency workers would show up and ask me what's going on. And I remember this one time towards the end, I said, standing like this, "You don't see them?" And then the EMT was like, "What?" I'm like, "Lions are tearing my arms apart." Like I was having hallucinations. Like that's bad. Like day nightmare, daymare. Like I was seeing things. That's not normal. And Also, I remember calling my mom. She was still alive at the time. And I said, "Mom, don't you just think the world's just turned into this very dangerous, dark, filthy place?" That's my lens. That's my head talking. That's the world around is a bunch of things. It's one of those things, but that's all I saw. And I stopped seeing in color. I don't remember being able to see in color for the last couple of years. It was black and white.
What did you do to resolve some of these issues that traumatized you?
I had a panic attack during one set of circumstances and collapsed in front of the Wrigley Building on Michigan Avenue. And I was in tears. I was exploding with anger and sadness and grieving. And I had my first sober thought, because alcoholic and everything else. I was pouring drugs and alcohol and behavior and all kind of crazy stuff on top of the feelings because I didn't know how to manage the feelings. So my first sober thought was, if I'm so smart, why am I so miserable? Clearly I don't know it all. It was like the first humble thought I ever had in my life. Instead of being angry, I'm like, well, maybe I don't know something. And I called a friend my friend Scott, and I said, please go find for me a therapist. And I told him what I wanted, which was actually not wrong. I said, I want an old man with gray hair who looks like Sigmund Freud with 100 letters after his name. I want to go right to the top. Find me, and very directive. I want to be told what to do. I wanted action. I didn't want just prayer circles, kind of a thing. I'm a guy. I like action. So he found the right person, right in Chicago's Loop. I think it's called Working Sobriety, and it was a group addiction recovery. I went to go meet the doctor. Within 10 minutes, he said, "You're an abuse survivor. You're an incest survivor. You got to go go to a meeting. You can join our group. Like you belong." And I'm like, what? But he was so credentialed, I couldn't ignore he had so much authority, though I couldn't ignore what he said. That evening, I went to my first AA meeting, and it was called Jews Don't Drink. And it was all the way up in California. And I thought the name of the meeting was funny. So I was like, I'm going there because Jews don't drink. I mean, we're supposed to be whatever the hell. So I got there, and there was like a 300-year-old recovered guy that's been sober for 1,000,000 years with the gray hair. He only grumbles. He doesn't even talk anymore. He's been sober longer than I've been alive. I think Eisenhower was in office or something. And he gave a lead, and people were raising their hands and sharing. And for the first time in my life, and I was 44, I looked around and was like, holy shit, I'm home.
Awesome.
These people sound like me.
Awesome.
That was a nice moment.
Yeah. You know, domestic violence is really less heard about.
It is.
It is. And why don't you think more men don't want to speak out about it?
It's rare in men. It's rare that it's spoken about with women, although it's becoming more acceptable. I think we spend so much time in denial, minimizing, normalizing what the abuse is. Like, I thought my family was normal. No, the truth was, we grew up in a 1960s, 1970s version of The Sopranos. I had a big fat father who had a lot of money, and he was a bully. So it sounds like a Soprano. We had a Cadillac with the fins. You know, we went to synagogue. Mom had fur coats and jewelry, and just my father had a plane, like he owned a plane. Like, you know, that doesn't, like, that veneer of a wealthy Jewish, you know, New York, New Jersey area people didn't fit in with that. My dad was also shooting heroin in the basement. Crazy, you know, and then this other. So it was a cover. And I think I thought that was a normal family until I got into therapy. I'm like, maybe this is not, other families don't grow up this way, you know? So I think that's a cover, is we make, because kids want to be loved, right? So whatever the parent is, that's got to be love. We'll just redefine love as that, you know, like in my example, if you loved me, you'd hit me. What? No, I mean, that's how I grew up. So I was looking for a fight until I was 44. And then I started learning how to stop looking for a fight, stop fighting myself. I really think that's what was going on.
Well, now, today, tell us how you support other survivors through your photography business.
I'd be happy to. So I'm 16 years sober. It's kind of like a birthday to me. Like when I finally got help and realized I, you know, had some growing to do and learning how to. So I had always been a photographer. My mom was an artist and taught me how to take pictures in the 70s on a Canon A1. I think it was an A1 metal body camera. And I'd always been interested in doing a fundraiser. So my brother it was actually my brother's idea. He said, Jake, you're domestic, like in the middle of my recovery, he's like, you should choose domestic violence as your social mission because you're so noisy about it. Because that's what happens with sober people. They get very noisy for a while. And I listened to him and went and found an organization here in Chicago, a not-for-profit called Wings. They were nothing but loving and supportive for what I was doing. And I paired it with boudoir photography because I love boudoir photography. It's empowering for women. I'm something of a male feminist advocate, I suppose. We live in Andersonville. Guess my politics, you know, that kind of a thing. So I put the two together, and then I just said, please donate to the shelter instead of paying a session fee, and you come here and have the experience. And that seems to have caught everyone's attention. We're all over the news about that, et cetera. I do want to tack on, going backwards, how I got better. It wasn't just therapy. It wasn't just sitting in a group. I did group therapy, by the way. A lot of people don't do that, but all your family stuff comes up. Like you elect people in a group to represent whatever you grew up with. You adopt the roles and things. But I also did, 12-step, went to a couple fellowships, men's groups. I went to the Mankind Project. That's men sitting in a circle and interrupting one another, which is kind of more my style. Did that for years and made lifetime friends in that. I learned how to like get along with other men, right? Because I think we recover in relationship to one another. We don't recover off in the corner alone. It needs relationship with other healthy people, actually. So sometimes we need to take ourselves out of the family of origin and put ourselves in a new family. People talk about that. They talk about family of choice. I think that's what they're talking. I found healthy people to hang around with. They love me in a new way. That's first. So I did a lot of that, and even martial arts. 16 years I've been doing jujitsu, which I teach it now, which is fun, and that was a good physical outlet for what I'm doing. And I don't think you need to do what I did, but you do need to find a couple different modalities that kind of mix and match. That's an art form. You can be an artist in our own, we can be artists in our own recovery, like what we choose and when. Did you have another question?
No, I want to just thank you for sharing
I want to thank you.
your
I think
story.
you're
It was very enlightening, and I appreciate it. And I'm sure it's going to help a lot of other people.
Yeah, you don't have to look like me. I think that's the other thing about why do men. It's the core of the story. Like if you can identify with any piece of this story, and realize like I was an extreme case, with the hallucinations and I felt like a homeless person. My doctor, Jeffrey Roth, he said I was in a very advanced case one day, and that terrified me. What did he mean by that? But if you go read the big book, there's a whole chapter on advanced cases. If I can get better, and I am better, I'm fundamentally joyful, happy to wake up every day, amazed I'm still here. I feel useful in society. I've a dignified, useful thing that I'm doing with my art making. I'm using it to raise awareness and help other people. So you can transform what happened to you into art making or helping other people. I think we've heard that in other interviews. So it feels nice to belong. I think I'd like to end with that.
Thank you, Survivor.
You're very welcome, interviewer.